the girl realized that she had actually been reincarnated. After being killed by someone, she was reborn into another world. She returned to her birthday ball 6 years ago. To avoid the prince's proposal, Jill quickly decided to leave the ball. As she was leaving, Jill reflected on her previous life, and the cause of her death. At that time, the prince had proposed to her, but because the prince couldn't stand Jill's immense magical power, he hoped to use her to maintain his control and power. However, one day, Jill accidentally discovered the prince's secret. He had fallen in love with his own sister. After Jill learned of this forbidden affair, her engagement was annulled. Jill was thrown into the dungeon, and falsely accused of attempting to harm the princess. Angry, Jill used her powerful magic to escape, but she was no match for so many people. In the end, the prince killed Jill. As Jill looked at the castle scenery, she thought she was dreaming, but what she didn't expect was that, even though she had run so far, the prince began to pursue her again, just like in her previous life. The prince held a blue rose in his hand, preparing to propose. If Jill were her previous, ignorant self, she would have accepted without hesitation. But now, Jill recalled the tragic ending of her past life, and she quickly interrupted the prince. She forgave herself, and realized that her parents must be very worried, because she had been away from home for so long. So, Jill fled from the balcony. She returned to the ball, but Jill knew that running away forever was not the real solution. As she considered a plan, the prince suddenly became angry, and chased after Jill again, insisting that he had something important to say. In desperation, Jill grabbed the cloak of the person standing behind her, and declared that she had fallen in love with this person, and that she would be with him. The prince instantly became furious, but he dared not show his anger. That's because the person Jill had proposed to was none other than Hades, the emperor of the neighboring kingdom. Hades was captivated by Jill, and he agreed to her request. 6 years later, not only was Hades the emperor of the neighboring kingdom, but he had also destroyed this kingdom with overwhelming force. Now, he accepted Jill's proposal, and promised to kneel before his wife forever. Jill's confession made Hades extremely happy. Now, Hades hoped that Jill would say those words again, as he wanted to confirm this was not a dream. Jill couldn't believe her eyes, for in her past life, Hades was a bloodthirsty enemy emperor. But now, Hades was looking at her so lovingly. Hades wanted to personally put shoes on Jill, worried she might catch a cold. Jill felt she could put them on herself, believing that as a king, Hades shouldn't be doing such things. But Hades insisted, carefully putting the shoes on for her. Jill couldn't resist Hades' serious demeanor. However, just then, the prince entered. He wanted an explanation from Jill, since the engagement had been approved by both families. But it was the first time Jill heard this. Maybe she just didn't understand the noble's way of speaking. Now, the prince wouldn't stop talking. Hades, holding Jill, was ready to leave. But the prince actually ordered the soldiers to take up their weapons, saying he wouldn't let them leave. Hades coldly told them to get out of the way, and that they were leaving now. He also politely thanked the prince for his invitation. To avoid further disturbance, Hades took Jill onto a ship. With his magic, he could return to his country in a few hours. While Jill was still in shock, she didn't expect Hades to have prepared girls' clothes for her, but that wasn't the most important thing. Jill was relieved that she had escaped from the prince's grasp. Then Jill asked Hades how serious he was about the proposal. After all, they were quite far apart in age, but Hades said they were very well matched. More importantly, Jill confessed to him, which meant she loved him, though Jill might have been better off a couple of years younger. He wanted a perfect, happy family, and he wouldn't be swayed by such small details. What Jill never expected